Okay, so I don't have a name for this yet. I'll name this segment later. GTG spits that grease. You know how this goes. I'm figuring something out. It's a work in progress. I'd like to talk to you guys actually, if the title doesn't already give it away. I want to talk to you a little bit about DSP and him suing his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. I want to give you guys one angle on why he's doing it. There's a lot of ways to approach it, and so don't be surprised if I make another video a few months down the line, because as he's going to continue spewing all this on what his reasoning might be at that particular time, or just another aspect or another piece of the overall puzzle. At current, what DSP, I think, the reason why DSP is on this spiel about, you guys are lucky I haven't won the lottery yet, because if I had, I'd go after you for the sake of it, to yada, 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 yada. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where he's like, I need to stand up and protect other content creators who are going over this. He's actually already mentioned something similar to that, where he's like, someone needs to stand up and do the right thing, like he knows anything about morals or values or doing the right thing on anything. Point taken. The situation with his friend who was allegedly molested / SA'd by Mr. Wiz, but we'll save that for later. I think DSP's main reasoning right now is he's scared that people are going to, who are not his regular detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, are going to come in and start getting that bread off, start really pulling money off of. Let me explain. DSP's core detractors, trolls, haters, and critics fall into three separate categories, actually. One, they are former fans who have become detractors. Two, they're former viewers of him who got tired of listening to his bullshit and wanted to migrate over to another group of people who thought the way they did and had the same type of disgust for DSP's behavior as they do. And then three, you have a core that have heard of DSP but weren't actually connected to DSP. They weren't fans of his content, they weren't fans of him, whatever. They heard from about him from outside entities, and then they came in. I fall into that category. Actually, more than likely, most of y'all who are listening to this fall into that too. People forget that Medicare is a big reason, is a big reason why DSP has, he contributed to the DSP detractor community. Same thing with It's a Gundam. He's another one who contributed heavy to the DSP detractor community. Or he helped bring people in, I should say. There was another guy too. He used to do comparison videos on DSP and Low Tier God. And I think he may have even done a couple with Wings of Redemption too. I cannot think of that guy's name for the life of me at the moment. But he used to do comparison videos on like who's worse. He was he came up right around the time, or he started to make some noise right around the time Gundam was building a lot of steam off of his own content as well. I can't think of his name at the moment. If it comes to me though, as it usually does, I'll make sure I shout it out and I'll have someone put it in the description. In any case, so that's where a lot of those outside influences kind of come from. For the most part, it was all for the love of the game, right? It was all about, hey, DSP did something stupid, then speak on it, right? Or mock it in some type of way, or just dissect the dumb crap that he was doing and or saying. Now, because of SOK and other elements, the concept of monetization was looked down upon. I'll make a whole separate video on that in itself. But there were people who were like, man, fuck that. I'm putting time into this, and if people want to contribute to it through either, AdSense or PayPal or whatever they want to donate with, or when they started streaming, when the restreaming really started to pick up, big ups to Tevin, praise be, and people want to start donating money to them on that tip, then it was made available, as it should have, to be honest. And so in a lot of ways, if you look at it from the monetization standpoint, DSP could say, oh, you guys are just haters, you guys are just jealous of me, this, that, and the third, but he had SOK and other entities basically gatekeeping for him that it wouldn't look good that they were making money. So this way, if DSP ever had to go to the financial route of it, he could just shit on them directly. He doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So he can shit on the core detractor community because they were all haters and jealous of him and envious him, and they were taking him out of context and slander, defamation. But he could always look at SOK and be like, well, look at you guys. You guys are making money off of me, and yada, yada, yada. And if he even wanted to go any further, if he knew about it, he could say, well, look at what you guys are doing to your own peoples. You're sitting there gatekeeping them from getting money. Now, SOK could literally go back and say, well, wait a second. That's not true. You know, this guy makes money. This guy makes money. This guy makes money. But the core, but members of the core detractor community didn't. So that becomes a problem. So there's that. Excuse me, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. In any case, DSP was fortunate enough in that time, in that place, that he could have that. He has a group of detractors that are shitting on him. He has a group of detractors within that group who were gatekeeping who can make money off him and what's not, who can make money off of him and who couldn't. Everything was all peachy keen. Then SOK falls. Now, just because SOK fell doesn't mean that their methodology didn't leave the board. It was still very much in the room after Freddie left and the rest of them. So there was that. But that didn't really stop people at that point. There were people like myself. There was a lot of other people who were like, yo, man, if you're putting out content, you should make money off it if you want to do that. It actually mirrors, interestingly enough, you would think Fred would know this, but it mirrors back during Gamergate when you had people like Medicare who felt like the message needs to be put out there. We don't need grifters. We don't need people profiting off of it. And you had people like Ethan Ralph. I don't even know why I'm shouting Ethan Ralph out here. But you had people like Ethan Ralph who were like, man, fuck that. If you're going to put in this work, you should be able to make some money off it. If people want to contribute to you, then cool. If you're out here begging for money so I can keep doing content, that's one thing. But if these guys are putting out content and they want to slide them a couple of bucks or whatever the case may be, or they want to support their content in a more financial side of way or kind of way, then that should be allowed and whatnot. Now, Medicare eventually ends up seeing the folly of his way and ends up turning it around. But people need to remember that there's people like Ethan Ralph who was really pushing on that subject back in those days. Even though he was cool with Medicare still. He was still, quote unquote, in bed with Medicare. But he did feel like there was a problem with that. Now keep in mind, if you guys know anything about Gamergate, there was a shitload of grifters over there. There was a shitload of grifters over there. For various reasons and amongst various degrees. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? The almighty dollar, for good or bad, prevailed. Now, DSP in the current day and age, he doesn't have that. Most people, or some of the people that are coming in now who are doing DSP content, are more than likely just fans of the Detractors, which isn't nothing new. You know what I'm saying? I was a fan of Tevin, Theo, Argent, Snort Burnell, as well as other people when I stepped onto the court. So it is what it is. The thing is now that scares DSP the most is how it's so much more financially driven. That's what scares him. That's what bothers him. It's the fact that you have people that can make more money off of his content in a shorter amount of time than he can. Now keep in mind, DSP doesn't really make money off his content. Let me reiterate this. DSP doesn't make money off of his content. He makes his money off of begging. So when you bring people in who now are making fun of you, mocking you, dissecting you and your inabilities and your idiosyncrasies, and you're begging, that bothers him. And that's why he's really going like bull-faced, if you will. You know, basically snort-faced gremlin, if you will, as it pertains to this whole suing nonsense. He's scared that more and more people that are going to come in, whether they're grifters, whether they're just, you know, fans of other detractors and they're just going to do content so they can support set detractors or whatever, he's scared that more of them are going to come in and dry up the financial pool. Because, excuse me, you're seeing some of these supporters of DSP bouncing out. You know what I'm saying? Only Iced Coffee is probably going to be there to the end. What's his name? Iron Chef Sakai, whoever the fuck that is, we'll see. He seems wishy-washy either which way. But a lot of people who got pushed out, like the Dutch brothers, them cats are probably still around. They're probably on sock accounts, or they actually picked up and left. It's getting to the point now where DSP has less and less to offer, hence the reason why he's so desperate to get more and more people, new blood, if you will, to come in so the Gouty vampire can fucking drain off of everybody else. Or the snorty Nosferatu can go ahead and get his off of other people. And he knows that. That's why he's so hell-bent to staying with PPP, Andy, and Kino Casino. Even though they're mocking the shit out of him. Matter of fact, if you really think about it, this is really silly, but it's interesting though. Kino Casino, they have a guy on there called, I think his name is Steven. It's Steve or Steven. And he's like big into UFO stuff and whatnot. He's actually pretty knowledgeable, to be honest, because I remember watching some documentaries on UFOs and shit. I had a group of friends. I still do, but I have a group of friends that are really interested in that whole extraterrestrial and cryptology and all that shit. Anyway, you know, they had passed me some books to read, some articles, watch some documentaries. And some of those things Steve is literally saying off the top of his head. So I can kind of relate to him to a degree because we've gone over some of the same material. And he seems to be he seems a little strange, but it's the internet, we're all strange. But he seems to be like a solid person. And he dabbles in DSP stuff. Like, he likes to laugh at some of the nonsense. He's not completely and utterly devoted to it, but it's whatever. But PPP is really wanting to bring him in onto it. And that's because, in some ways, I think PPP can see the gold mine that is still dark side filled, that's untapped. Especially since he can literally shit on DSP right in front of his face and DSP can't do anything about it. Now, we'll work on another video, or I'll have another video or a talking segment about that in general, and how far I think PPP can go with it. Because, to be honest with you, unlike most people, I don't think PPP really has a limit. I don't think there is a limitation, or there is a segment where he would. I don't think there's a line for him that he can't cross. I honestly think that DSP is so codependent on him that I think PPP can damn near do no wrong. To be honest, within. No, not even within. I think he can honestly get away with anything. But we'll save that video. We'll save that. I'm putting this out here so that I can make notes later. So I think PPP sees the gold mine in it. Not the diamond mine yet, but he sees the gold mine. And if you can go ahead and get somebody who's well known in another community and bring them in to see DSP as this alien, extraterrestrial weirdo that he is, you might be able to drum up some morbid curiosity. Now, the Kino Casino actual viewer base is hit or miss with it. Sometimes they think some of it's funny, sometimes they think it's boring, and let's just get on to what the typical Kino stuff is. But PPP still wants to push it because it amuses PPP. It really do. And it also shows how little PPP really knew about Phil. He thought, like most people think initially, he's just a weirdo, he's just a strange guy, but his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics are always blowing shit up or lying or exaggerating or whatever. But I think in the last couple of Smart Guy episodes, I think he's begged to differ. I think he realized that Phil is a backwards weirdo who's completely and utterly obsessed with money, yet he really doesn't understand what he's doing and how he's doing it. And so PPP will dangle people like Duty in front of DSP, and DSP is going to come a running because Duty's a soft target and he's easy, and DSP can easily hit him. And PPP will sit there and dangle him because why not? It's content. It's going to bring in money either which way. The very thing that DSP fears from people like Duty, for example, is exactly what PPP's doing right in his face. And he's running to him and saying, "Yes, sir, I'll take another. Yes, sir, may I have another? Like, may I have some more?" He's willing to do that. That's fucking wild. So it just gives you an idea of how warped DSP's sense of self-preservation is. While he's sitting here, and it also shows his hypocrisy, while he's sitting here threatening lawsuits. Let me continue with that, though. So the PPP thing was an example. The thing with the lawsuits, alleged lawsuits, if he wins this hypothetical lottery that's going to fix all of his problems, it's a deterrent. It's not a barrier. Because no detractor's just going to stop doing content. Oh, DSP's going to sue us now. Stop. No one's going to stop. No one's going to stop doing that. DSP would literally waste his winnings on going after a bunch of faceless people online who will sit there, and if their channels get dropped, they'll just start over. The ones who are really dedicated to it. If not, then they'll just team up with other detractors, and you'll start to see, like you saw with the NBA, with the big threes type situation. I mean, you could say, well, isn't that what that being said is? I wouldn't put it like that, to be honest. Not with them. That's not me being biased. I wouldn't say that's a big three type situation. But you would just see a big three thing. You would see where people who had their channels taken down would just group up together into one brand new channel, and the remnants of their old channels would just come up there and they'll build up that way. Now, that may one day actually happen. It's not off the cards depending on how the wind flows or the wind blows. But that could be a thing. And that's just going to make it worse. But the point is DSP is just using that threat, and that is what it is a threat, as a deterrent. It doesn't hold any more value. It's not any more reasonable, respectable, or even drumming up any more fear than that. That's literally what it comes down to. He's trying to prevent new people from coming in and grifting off of him. He's trying to prevent any of his own pay pigs, whales, or even dents who can rub two fucking brain cells together from either partnering up with current detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, or becoming detractors, trolls, haters, and critics themselves. That's all it is. It's a veiled threat. It means nothing. It means nothing at all. And in a lot of ways, what DSP is crying about mirrors the hypocrisy of Fred. You know, hey, SOK is like, yo, you shouldn't make money off DSP content, while they were drumming up all this money for all these different things. Some people that were adjacent to them were able to do it. You know, Slow Beef is one example. He was able to make money off his content. No one seemed to have a problem with that, let alone to the fact that they were donating to it. DSP says that you guys can't make money off of him. That's bullshit. You guys are slandering and slandering him and are defaming him, basically. But yet you'll let PPP do that shit right in your motherfucking face for money, for profit. And you're okay with it because you're splitting the pot with him. That's wild. It's not unexpected, but it's wild. So it just kind of goes to show why no one respects DSP and how it all falls flat. You know what I mean? It explains his own, insecurities and the lack of power that he has. There is no SOK deterrent out there anymore. Well, there is a deterrent, but I wouldn't say he operates in an SOK type of way, but you know what I mean? Superhound moves the way he moves. But there is no SOK type of deterrent within the DSP Detractor community who preaches, hey, you can't make money, you shouldn't make money off that off of your content. There's nobody that's going to stand up and say that dumb shit. Most of the people who said that when Fred was around, they've already assimilated themselves into these different detractor groups and discords and shit like that, and they don't want to even speak on it anyway. Most of them don't even want their own names to be attached to that shit. Most of them ain't already sat there and given up their old accounts and started brand new ones and whatever. But the vernacular is still the same. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But that's a whole nother thing for another time. That's where the situation is. That's literally what it all comes down to. He doesn't want more people to put the lens on him and make money doing it. But on top of that, he doesn't want to have another 2023, 2024 with a Moist Critical, a Mrhuth, a Stuttering Craig. He doesn't want any of that. Which is ironic because, you know, those three people spoke about him, you know, during 2023, 2024 at some point. And then all three of them guys end up falling into shit. Mrhuth has his shit that he still ain't cleaned up yet, and he's not going to. Nux is going to be that dirt and shadow that's going to be over him forever. Moist Critical has had a bunch of different issues on a bunch of different fronts and whatnot, and he's confronting them mostly behind the scenes from what I'm being told. But the public part doesn't look good, but it don't matter. He's still going to make his content. His core fan base will still support it, but he has chinks in the armor now. He's not as invulnerable as people thought. And then who was the third guy? Mrhuth, Moist Critical. Oh, and Stuttering Craig. Stuttering Craig, for better or worse, has, with his foray into politics and whatnot, and trying to push people, trying to get politics out of video games, has in turn entered his own political, come into his own political self, and is now essentially, in some ways, doing the very thing that he wanted to be pushed out. He's starting to become the very thing that he's trying to fight against. Maybe it's the curse of being around DSP. Who could say? But either which way, there's that. DSP needs to try to avoid that at all, and in all ways possible. But how are you going to do that? There is nobody out here that's clean. There's nobody out here that is completely and utterly above criticism. With that being said, There is nobody out there in some way, shape, or form that hasn't heard about DSP, Darkside Phil Burnell, Dark Geppetto. That's what it means to be infamous. There's nothing prolific about you unless you just want to be known as a prolific fucking asshole, dumbass, idiot, fucking alien in this shit. But there's not really one place on the internet that your name hasn't gone through it. From VTubers, from the political sphere, from anything that has to do with social media, you know what I'm saying? Or pop culture, video games, movies, anything. Any and all of your dumbass takes is recorded somewhere in some type of community. It may be a small part of that set community, but it's there. And that's why when the VTuber drama happened, that shit spreaded like wildfire. When he says dumb shit about Zelda, it spreaded like wildfire. He should have known that from his issues with Metal Gear Solid back in the day. Or Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, really. But you know what I mean. And the whole Kojima thing. You should have understood it back then. And DSP never did. For whatever reason, he always thought he can, and he still does. He thinks he can say what he wants to say and just walk away. Now it's gotten to the point, because he didn't address that shit back in the day, that now people are making money off of it, and people can see other people making money off of it. Good money, as Alinity once said. Good money. And now they want their piece of it too. And now you have people who are willing to take a small detractor, build them up and whatnot to get them to monetization, and then signal boost them to everybody, which is only going to piss off DSP more. And DSP knows it. And detractors know that shit. Detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, if they didn't understand it before, they understand now. That it's not about just views and subs now. You can literally use the idea of making money off of DSP to piss him off, to actually hurt him. But DSP probably wouldn't go at any of those guys because they have to stay nameless and faceless because you don't pay no attention to them. And that's why Duty's a soft target. Because when Duty put himself out there, he put the bullseye on his back and on his chest. And so now it's easy for DSP to hit. But Duty shouldn't have a problem with that because he's going to make content off of either which way. And then other people will probably gravitate to Duty under the same concept. So all DSP's doing, in some way, as he is trying to diminish his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, in truth, all he's doing is strengthening them. He's only making them stronger. Just like he did with This Is How You Don't Play. Just like he did when he tried it, when he took down Tevin and those other boys on Twitter or on Twitch. You know what I'm saying? He just made them stronger when they came back. And that's why sooner than later, DSP's gonna admit that he was behind that Tevin shit. Because literally, all fucking fingers point to his ass. All wheelchairs point directly to him. Sooner than later, it's gonna come out. I'll make a video on that because I've been waiting to talk about that. I've been waiting to talk about that. I'll probably actually do it right after this one, actually. I've been waiting to speak on that. So that's what the scenario is. That's what the suing detractors and the wishful thinking about the lottery, or really what he's kind of doing, is he's pig whistling. He's pig whistling that he's hoping that he can implant in people's heads to support a legal fund for him to go after detractors. That's really what he's doing. He's using the lottery as it's really smoke and mirrors. He knows it's never going to happen. Most of his dents know it's not going to happen, even though DSP steadily, and don't let him tell you differently, he steadily buys lottery tickets. But one day a week he goes out, and that's even if he goes out. I'll save that for a whole nother thing. He does buy lottery tickets. And you can get lottery tickets, from what I've been told anyway, through DoorDash or whatever, or especially those grocery services. You can have lottery tickets purchased for yourself. If you can have alcohol purchased, you can have lottery tickets purchased. So, or at least scratch-offs, I would think. But every state's different though. So there's that. But please believe, he's not going to win the lottery. And if he does, he's going to win a few hundred or a few thousand, and that's just going right to WWE champions. What he's doing is he's trying to implant in people's heads that, hey, I may take legal action against these people. And if you people are really about supporting me against my detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, then you guys will help fund it. If you don't believe me, go back to the Super Crazy arc when he said that, oh, Super Crazy's gonna he's trying to raise up money to sue me and shit in a lolcow suit, or a lol suit as they call it. He doesn't know, or he doesn't realize that the internet will stand up and support me. That's what DSP said. Would they really do it? No, not the internet at large. His dents will, at least some of them. But usual suspect type shit. But the internet at large is not going to do that. Mudahar is not going to throw money at you. Moist Critical is not going to throw money at you. Stuttering Craig's not going to throw money at you. No one in the FGC is going to throw money at you. No, that's not how it's going to work. But DSP still believes that, though, because that's part of his redemption arc. So that's really what it is when he's talking about this lottery thing, in my opinion. The lottery situation is just him pig whistling to his fans. And when the time comes for an actual legal, if DSP was dumb enough to even do it, for an actual legal issue, I'm going to need your guys' support. And here's the reality of that, by the way. Let me be very clear as we close this video out. Because this has already gone about 5 minutes over what I wanted to. If DSP was to actually pull the trigger on that, and say, hey, I'm going to take legal action against these people, please help me, that money is going to get misappropriated and it's going to vanish. It's not going to go anywhere. I promise you. He'll keep the total up. He'll want you people he'll want people to see it and be like, look at what we've done together as a community, or whatever the hell you want to call it, a roach nest, whatever, a wheelchair circle, whatever. He'll sit there and point to that and say, look at what we've done, but he'll never move with it. He'll never move on it. It'll be so much money that it will be misappropriated. It'll be misused almost immediately. But he'll use that as a veiled threat against his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. He'll use that as a talking point for the viewer base, the fan base, the dent congregation, to be like, this is what we did together, and this is what we need to keep doing. And when the content gets slow, or when the contributions get slow for the content, he'll always point to that. And that'll be just another thing he uses to drum in money day to day. I guarantee it. So, in my own head, I have his whole little suing detractor thing turned into an entire scheme that he could potentially turn it into. Now, is he thinking as far ahead as I am? No, not at all. He's too lazy, physically and mentally, and he lacks the dexterity. At least he doesn't have that dexterity anymore, I should say, to have long-term planning like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to do something similar, a variation, if you will, a rendition of what I just said in some way, shape, or form. That's really what it comes down to, and there's no other merit to it than that, I promise you. I promise you, there's no other merit to it. You know what I mean? It's just another veiled threat he's throwing out there. Because he himself has probably tried to strike down every detractor channel, especially over the last couple of years. He's probably tried to do it multiple times. He's probably tried to report them multiple times. And it's just not working. It's not getting him the results that he wants. And the reason why that is he's been stupid about it. Instead of trying to take all these detractor channels down, he should have tried to demonetize them. But see, he didn't know who was demonetized at that time, or who was monetized at the time, and he didn't have an idea of what kind of money they were making. That's what really pisses Darkseid off as it pertains to someone like Duty. See, DSP always had in his head, oh, well, he's putting out all these videos. He's probably making 1,000, 2,000. He could be making more than I am. That's all he's making. Then when Duty came out and said, yeah, well, here you go. Here's a screenshot. I'm making 5,000 a month, and this is a slow month. That's what freaked DSP out. That's what freaked him out. Because if that's what one person can do, just imagine what 10 people could do. Just imagine what 50 people could do. DSP has already been completely shunned out of the algorithm and out of essentially YouTube search engine. He knows it. Deep down in his soul, he knows it. But now you're seeing the opposition is making ridiculous money off of you, and you really can't stop it. You can negate it, you can try to kneecap it, but you're not really preventing it. And that's why DSP likes to take this angle about, oh, well, when he got demonetized, look at how quick he was to try to get monetization again. Or look at how he was trying to go these other ways to make money or whatever. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping yourself at all. All you're proving, all you're illustrating is that, oh, well, if you take their monetization from them, they'll go to Streamlabs, they'll go to PayPal, they'll go to whatever, and they'll use that, and people will still fund them and support them. Then what are you going to say? Then what are you going to say? So in a lot of ways, DSP does what DSP usually does: give him enough rope and he'll hang himself. Well, anyway, that's my take on the current situation about suing detractors. At least one aspect of it. I have a few other angles, but we can save that as the situation comes along. I thought it was funny. I thought it was super amusing that DSP is trying to hold on to that particular fight. He needs to kind of let that go in the overall. If he's going to focus on one person, keep it all on one person. Don't try to diverse your attention to other people and try to spotlight them, because you're just going to make it worse. But, you know, you can't separate a fool from his anger. So just like you can't just like a debt will part with their fucking social security check. So it is, or disability check. So it is what it is on that. In any case, thank you to coming to my talking segment, my extended TED talk. GTG spitting that grease. I'll name the segment later, whatever. I appreciate y'all, you know, coming by. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later, people.